Hey guys, tonight we begin with something quietly haunting, something that creeps into your days without a sound, without a warning. You wake up, check your phone, shuffle through your routine. You work, you scroll, you sleep, repeat. And then one day, maybe it's a Wednesday, maybe it's a Sunday night before a new week begins, you pause and it hits you. You've been alive, but not really living. You've been reacting, not choosing, drifting, not steering, numbly existing on autopilot. And here's the uncomfortable part that states this passive drift. It's not accidental. It's engineered, not by some grand conspiracy, but by 1,000 tiny unchecked decisions, by habits, by comfort, by fear, and by not knowing there was another way. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." And if that sounds intense, it's meant to be. He wasn't trying to scare you. He was trying to wake you up. Because this moment, this breath you're taking right now, it's your only guarantee. Everything else, your plans, your identity, your reputation, those are illusions unless you start living by design. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Part 1. Let's talk about what happens when you stop living on autopilot and start designing your life. We begin with this question. If you could start your life from scratch today, what would you choose to keep, and what would you finally let go of? You see, most people never ask this. They accept the blueprint handed to them by family, by culture, by old wounds and random luck. They inherit jobs, beliefs, friendships, even emotions like heirlooms. And they live their lives like actors who never got to read the script before the curtain rose. But here's the truth. Stoicism teaches us, you always have agency. Always. Even if you can't change your external circumstances, you can change how you perceive them. That's Epictetus 101. He said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things," meaning you can redesign your emotional architecture even when the external world refuses to cooperate. So, the first step out of autopilot isn't about blowing up your life. It's about becoming aware, about noticing the script you're acting out, not judging it, just seeing it clearly. Here's an exercise. Tomorrow, when you wake up, don't reach for your phone. Instead, sit still, take one deep breath, and then ask, what am I about to do today, and why? That one pause, that half minute of intention can begin the unraveling of a life you didn't mean to live. Now let's talk about the enemy of awareness noise. Not just the literal kind, the mental kind, the pings, the headlines, the fake emergencies, the expectations of people who don't live your life but seem to have a lot of opinions about it. Seneca said, if you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. Meaning, the chaos isn't out there. It's in how you relate to it. You don't need a cabin in the woods. You need a quieter mind. How do you build one? You begin by reclaiming your attention. That's your most precious currency. More than time, more than money. Because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. So here's a journaling practice. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did my attention go today? What did I give it to freely? And what did I guard it from? Did I create or just consume? This alone will wake you up more than most life hacks ever could. Because once you see where your attention leaks, you start to see how your identity has been shaped by default, not by design. And let's not forget this. Living on autopilot is comfortable. Until it isn't. That's the trap. The comfort is sneaky. It seduces you into thinking nothing's really wrong. You're not in pain. You're not lost. You're just fine. And that's the problem. Because fine is the death of greatness. It's the graveyard where dreams go to settle for a paycheck and a decent weekend. Marcus didn't write meditations to soothe himself. He wrote them to discipline himself, to remind himself daily that life is short, chaotic, and completely out of his control except for how he chose to meet it. And that's the essence of this video. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to stop being who you've been by default. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Let's say you've begun noticing your autopilot moments. You realize you scroll social media not because you care, but because it's what your fingers do when your soul is bored. You notice that you say yes when you mean no. You delay your workout, not because you're tired, but because your identity doesn't fully believe you're the kind of person who follows through. What do you do with that awareness? You create friction. You interrupt the loop. That's how you take your life off autopilot. Set up your environment like a Stoic battlefield. Make distractions inconvenient. Make intentions visible. Turn your phone off at night and leave a quote from Seneca on your mirror. Show me one person who values time more than money, and I'll show you someone who's truly free. You want to live by design. Start with how you begin and end your day, morning and evening. That's where identity is molded. In the morning, ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? In the evening, ask, did I honor that vision? Where did I fall short, not with shame, but with curiosity? This isn't about being perfect. This is about becoming deliberate. That's what the Stoics valued above all deliberate action, clear perception, inner strength. And here's something we often forget. Your life isn't built by big decisions. It's sculpted by small ones, repeated, daily, silently. 1,000 little choices about what to eat, who to listen to, what to avoid, when to speak, when to be silent, what to prioritize. And when those choices go unexamined, they become chains. But when you design them with intention, they become wings. So let me ask you, are your habits building your future or just repeating your past? Don't answer that quickly. Let it sit in your chest for a moment. Because here's the harsh reality. Most people are rehearsing the same emotional patterns day after day. Same triggers, same responses, same tired excuses. They call it personality. But what it really is unexamined repetition. Designing your life means becoming your own philosopher. It means questioning your defaults, not hating them, but choosing what stays and what goes. And yes, it's hard. That's why most people don't do it. It's easier to binge watch your evenings away than to sit with a journal and ask, what kind of life am I building here? But that's the point of Stoicism. It's not easy. It was never meant to be easy. It was meant to liberate you. Epictetus was born a slave. He had nothing, not even his own body, under his control. But he trained his mind to be free. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So the path to a designed life isn't in external success, it's in internal sovereignty. Start there. In part 2, we'll talk about the role of values, how to uncover yours, how to rebuild them when they've been inherited or corrupted, and how to use them like a compass not just to navigate but to choose who you become. But for now, let this linger. What are you building? And is it yours or borrowed? Part 2. You're beginning to see your life not as a fixed reality, but as a system, one that can be redesigned, rewritten, reclaimed. But you can't build anything meaningful without a foundation. And in this case, that foundation is your values. Now, most people think they know what they value. They'll say things like family, freedom, success, or peace of mind. But when you really press in, when you start to ask, what does that actually look like in your life? You find that most people have borrowed their values from the culture around them, from trends, from marketing, from what got them praised in childhood. Seneca warned us about this exact trap. He said, if you don't know which harbor you're sailing to, no wind is favorable. In other words, you can work hard, hustle, sacrifice, and still end up empty. Not because you didn't try, but because you were chasing goals that were never truly yours. So the next step in designing your life is this: define your true values, and not in theory and practice. Here's a journaling prompt that will help you go deeper than surface-level answers. What activities make me feel most alive? Even when they don't make me money, get me praise, or look good on paper. Another one. What have I pretended to value because it got me approval, but deep down, it drains me? These questions aren't cute little self-help games. They're tools of liberation, because once you clarify your values, your decisions become lighter, your boundaries get stronger, your yes and no stop coming from fear and start coming from purpose. Marcus Aurelius once asked himself, at every moment, keep a strong grip on the thought, this is all I have, this moment is my life. That's the urgency you need when redefining your values. Because here's the thing, every decision you make is a vote for your future self. What you say yes to, what you tolerate, what you pursue quietly when no one's watching, that becomes who you are. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of living by design: emotional architecture. Sounds abstract. Right. But it's one of the most practical ideas you'll ever encounter. See, we often think of our emotions as something that just happens to us, a reaction. But your emotional life, just like your physical fitness or financial habits, can be designed. How? Through intentional reflection, through conscious choices about your environment, and through reframing the narratives you live by. Let's start with a simple truth from Epictetus. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. You can train yourself to interpret the same events in radically different ways. And that changes everything. Example: you lose your job. On autopilot, that becomes panic, identity crisis, shame spiral. By design, it becomes a space to reflect, to ask, was I truly alive there? Was that job a reflection of my values or just a mask I wore to pay the bills and keep up appearances? Designers of their life don't see events as good or bad. They see them as raw materials, clay to be shaped by thought and purpose. This is where Stoicism becomes so practical. It teaches you that while you can't always control what happens, You can always control your response. And your response, that's the essence of your character. Let's make that real. Here's an emotional reframing exercise tonight, or whenever you have a moment alone. Write down 3 moments from your day where you felt triggered, stressed, or emotionally drained. Next to each one, write the story you told yourself about it. Then write a new story, one a Stoic might tell, one you would tell if you were operating from clarity, not reactivity. Over time, you'll start to see a pattern. It's not life that's exhausting you. It's your interpretation of life. And once you shift that interpretation, you start to regain energy, clarity, power. That's not spiritual fluff. That's neuroscience and philosophy colliding. So now, let's go one level deeper. Because the ultimate test of your emotional architecture is how you handle discomfort. Designing your life doesn't mean chasing ease. In fact, it's the opposite. It means choosing your discomfort on purpose, rather than letting random chaos choose it for you. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, political betrayal, and still wrote words like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not a slogan. That's an ethos. And you can apply it directly every day. Ask yourself, what kind of discomfort will I lean into today because I know it shapes the life I actually want? Maybe it's having a hard conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's doing the creative work you keep postponing. Maybe it's sitting in silence when every part of you wants to escape into distraction. That's what we mean by design. You're not just reacting to life. You're choosing your shaping forces. You're becoming the sculptor, not the sculpture. Let's talk about another pillar: attention engineering. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. It's what every algorithm, ad, and notification is trying to steal from you. But in Stoic philosophy, attention isn't just about focus, it's about the quality of your presence. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Why? Because our attention is hijacked by worst-case scenarios, social comparisons, future anxieties, and old stories we keep rehearsing out of habit. So here's a practice. Treat your attention like sacred space. Start your morning with silence. No phone, no input. Just you and your breath. Even for 5 minutes. Then, throughout the day, do attention audits. Ask yourself, where am I right now? Is this where I want to be mentally? If not, what is this moment asking of me? This isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. That's the first step to design. Now, before we close this part, I want to give you something powerful, something you can use right away. The Stoic Design Blueprint. 1. Journal your defaults, list your autopilot behaviors. Label which ones are rooted in values and which are just inertia. 2. Clarify your values. Ask what would I still value if no one could see me. 3. Choose your shaping discomfort. What will make you stronger this week? 4. Reclaim your attention. Cut one major distraction. Replace it with 1 hour of solitude or deep focus. 5. Reframe one emotional narrative daily. Identify the story you're telling yourself. Then rewrite it like a Stoic. This isn't a to-do list. This is how you slowly, steadily, lovingly reclaim authorship of your life. Because the truth is, no one's coming to save you from autopilot. But the Stoics, they left you the tools. And in part 3, we'll dive into identity. The stories you've told yourself about who you are, where they came from, and how to break free from the ones that no longer serve your higher self. You are not your history. You are not your past reactions. You are not your job, your mistakes, or even your current habits. You are what you practice becoming starting now. Part 3. Let's return to something essential, something most people overlook because it's so close, so familiar, they can't even see it clearly anymore. Your identity, not your name, not your job title, not your social role or relationship status. I mean the story you believe about who you are, the script you inherited and kept reciting in your head until it hardened into truth. But here's the reality: most people don't choose their identity. They absorb it. From childhood, from repetition, from trauma, from other people's projections. You're the quiet one, the reliable one, the screw-up, the people pleaser, the achiever, the smart one, the broken one, the one who never finishes anything. And even if it's painful, it's familiar, it's comfortable. So you carry it like a badge or a burden without ever asking, is this who I really am, or just who I learned to be? Epictetus warned us about this. He said, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Translation: choose your identity by design, not default. That's the work. That's the revolution. Because the moment you challenge the story you've been repeating, you open the door to becoming someone entirely new, not through fantasy, but through conscious action. Let me ask you a question and don't rush your answer. What are you currently rehearsing that you no longer want to become? Think about it. Every habit, every thought loop, every emotional reflex, it's a rehearsal, a repetition. And with every repetition, you etch deeper grooves into your brain, your behavior, your soul. But the Stoics knew something powerful, something modern psychology now confirms. You can rewire your story, and it starts with disrupting the narrative. So here's a simple but powerful journaling prompt. Finish this sentence: I always. Whatever comes up, look at it closely. I always self-sabotage. I always get anxious around people. I always give up too soon. I always stay stuck. Whatever it is, write it down. Now rewrite it as if you were training to become your highest self. I used to believe I always, but now I'm practicing. This shift isn't fake. It's design. You're not denying your past. You're no longer being defined by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So if your thoughts are soaked in old narratives, shame, and self-doubt, then that's what your identity becomes. But if your thoughts are laced with intention, clarity, and courage, then that becomes your character. It's not about pretending. It's about choosing what gets the spotlight in your inner world. Now, identity isn't just internal. It's reinforced by your environment. If you want to live by design, you need to align your space, your rituals, even your relationships with the future version of yourself, not the past one. So, take inventory. What objects around you reinforce who you used to be? What routines keep pulling you back into the old loop? Which relationships reward your passivity or insecurity? Design isn't just about aesthetics. It's about alignment. Think of your life like a garden. Every item, every person, every choice, it's either nourishing your future or crowding it out with weeds. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." And that goes beyond friendships. That includes your digital environment, your morning routine, the content you consume, the voices you allow into your inner space. So here's another practice. Curate your environment like an architect of transformation. Keep only what reflects your deepest values. Remove what keeps you asleep. Add what stirs something higher in you. This is how you stop living on autopilot. This is how you become the person you keep dreaming about. Not by waiting, not by consuming, not by being inspired for 5 minutes and forgetting everything tomorrow, but by slowly, persistently, intentionally becoming through design. Let's go even further. You've probably heard the term niche before in business, in content creation. But in Stoicism, your niche isn't a job, it's your function, your essential role in the world. Epictetus said, "Just as every nature is bounded by its appropriate acts, so too are we," meaning you have a role, a function that fits your nature. And when you find it, you stop grinding. You start flowing. So ask yourself, what feels natural for me to give to the world, even when it doesn't give me anything back right away? That's the beginning of your Stoic niche. Now, don't confuse this with instant clarity. Sometimes your function takes time to emerge. You try, you fail, you observe, you reflect. That's why journaling isn't optional in this process. It's the mirror you hold up to your evolving self. Designing your life means creating the conditions for your niche to emerge, not waiting for lightning to strike. And when it does emerge, you'll feel it, not as a fantasy, not as hype, but as a grounded sense of rightness, of alignment, like, this is who I was always meant to be, but now I'm finally living it. And that's where we come full circle. Because designing your life isn't about changing everything overnight. It's about waking up, over and over again, until you're no longer sleepwalking through your days. Until you stop chasing things that drain you. Until you stop repeating patterns that shrink you. Until you stop mistaking comfort for peace. This isn't a blueprint. It's a practice. Daily, deliberate, slightly uncomfortable, deeply liberating. So before we close this part, I'll leave you with one last question. One that's changed my life every time I return to it. If I fully believed I was free to become who I'm meant to be, what would I do next? Sit with that. Don't rush. Don't analyze. Just listen. In part 4, we're going to explore how time, your most precious, fleeting, irreversible resource, can be reclaimed and redesigned in ways most people never even imagine. We'll study what the Stoics had to say about urgency, mortality, and the quiet power of slow, intentional living. Because once you understand how to spend your time like the sacred currency it is, you stop wasting it on things that don't build the life you were born to live. You ready, part 4? Let's shift the spotlight now to time. Not the time on your watch, not the days marked off on your calendar. I mean your lived time, the kind that slips by unnoticed while you're busy being busy. The kind you'll one day wish you had back. Seneca wrote an entire essay titled "On the Shortness of Life," and the core truth inside it still rattles the soul today. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Let that settle. We waste it, not because we're lazy, not because we're evil, but because we've never been taught to honor time as sacred. Instead, we trade it casually, impulsively for approval, distraction, or just something to do. You scroll for an hour because you deserve a break. You say yes to plans you don't want because you don't want to disappoint. You sit in silence but fill it with noise because stillness, real stillness, is too unfamiliar. And then, months pass, years. Whole seasons of life blur into vague recollections. So here's the wake-up call. Your time is not renewable. Money. You can lose it and earn it back. Reputation. It can be rebuilt, but time once spent, it's gone forever. And the tragedy is, we rarely notice its value until we feel its absence. The Stoics weren't afraid of death because they understood something deeper, that fearing death is often just the symptom of a life unlived. When you're truly alive, you don't fear the end. You honor the moment. So ask yourself, how am I spending my life energy today? And is it in service of the person I'm trying to become? That's the essence of Stoic time management, not productivity for its own sake, but alignment, purposeful use, conscious action. Let's bring this down from philosophy into practice. Here's a Stoic-inspired reflection exercise. Each evening, before bed, write down just 2 things. 1. What did I give my time to today? 2. What did that time turn me into? Not what did I achieve, that's the trap. Ask instead, who am I becoming? Because that's what time does. It's not just passing, it's shaping you. Now, let's address something modern. Stoics struggle with urgency without panic. The modern world teaches you 2 extremes. Either hustle like your worth depends on it, or detach and pretend you don't care. But Stoicism, it offers a third path: live urgently, but with presence. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. That wasn't morbidity. That was clarity. Imagine how differently you'd move through your day if you really believed that this might be your last Tuesday. Not in fear, but with reverence. Would you waste time arguing over petty things? Would you scroll endlessly through strangers' lives? Would you delay that passion project? Would you numb out, or would you slow down? Not to escape, but to feel everything more deeply. Designing your life means designing your relationship with time. And that starts with becoming a guardian of your attention, not a victim of it. Here's something practical: the Stoic time filter. Before you say yes to anything, pause and ask, does this nourish me or just fill the space? Will this matter in 5 years? Am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm avoiding something else? This isn't about living like a monk. It's about living with integrity, where your time and your values actually match. And yes, this will make you weird. You'll say no to things other people chase. You'll guard your mornings like sacred space. You'll disappear from the noise not because you're antisocial, but because your life deserves depth, not just activity. Seneca said it best: busy is not the same as productive. You can be busy every hour of your day and still drift far from your soul's path. But here's the good news: it doesn't take massive change, just small acts of deliberate living. Wake up and don't touch your phone for the first hour. Replace 30 minutes of scrolling with journaling or stillness. Say no to one thing this week that drains you, even if it disappoints someone. Block out 2 hours for a deep life session: reading, walking, thinking, dreaming. You'll be amazed how much clarity returns when you stop trading your hours for crumbs of dopamine. And while we're here, let's talk about one of the greatest lies ever sold. that your time is only valuable if someone is paying you for it. No, your time is valuable because it's your life. If you spend an afternoon lying on the floor listening to your breath and feeling your existence, that matters. If you write, walk, sketch, meditate just because it stirs something in your chest, that matters. You're allowed to spend time without performing. You're allowed to live slowly. You're allowed to invest your energy in things no one else sees or validates. Because a life designed with inner truth will always look unproductive to a society obsessed with appearances. And this brings us to the next evolution of design, the architecture of your day. If your day is your canvas, how are you painting it? Here's a Stoic-inspired daily rhythm you can try, not rigid, but intentional morning awareness. Wake with silence. Journal. What kind of person do I want to be today? Read one passage from a Stoic philosopher. Set your core intention, not your task list, but your being list. Midday engagement. Reconnect with purpose. Ask, am I moving toward what matters or just reacting? Create or contribute one act of service, creation, or clarity. Evening reflection. Journal. Where did I stay true? Where did I drift? Forgive yourself. Learn. Reset. Let go. Don't carry tomorrow into your sleep. You do this not for perfection, but for presence. And over time, something remarkable begins to unfold. You stop craving escape. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop needing every moment to be exciting, and instead, you start finding meaning in the mundane. Because that's the secret no one tells you. A designed life doesn't feel epic every moment. It feels grounded, honest, alive. And when you live like that, the fear of running out of time begins to dissolve. Not because you have more of it, but because you're finally using it well. So let me ask you, right now, what is one small way you could honor your time better today without waiting for the perfect moment? Whatever came to mind, do it. No fanfare, no excuses. Just do it. In part 5, we'll dive into something most people avoid. Discomfort, not as punishment, but as design. We'll explore how embracing chosen discomfort becomes the doorway to strength, focus, and unshakable self-respect. Because comfort may feel safe, but discomfort is where your real life begins. And when you stop running from discomfort, you begin running toward yourself. Part 5. Let's talk about something raw, something most people run from, something we've been conditioned to numb, avoid, medicate, or reframe until it loses its teeth. Discomfort, but not just any discomfort, the kind you choose, the kind that doesn't just test your limits but sharpens them. Because here's the paradox at the heart of a designed life. The more you deliberately choose your discomfort, the less life can use pain to control you. Epictetus, who endured a life of slavery and poverty, understood this deeply. He said, difficulties show men what they are. In other words, struggle doesn't ruin you, it reveals you. And even more than that, it rebuilds you, if you let it. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about needless suffering or glorified burnout. I'm talking about the kind of discomfort that comes with growth by design. The kind of friction that's chosen, not imposed. The gym instead of the couch. The silence instead of the scroll. The honest conversation instead of people-pleasing. The solitary hour instead of shallow company. The focused session instead of scattered productivity. Every one of these is a fork in the road. And each time, you're answering this unspoken question, do I want comfort or clarity? Because clarity rarely arrives wrapped in ease. It's born in fire. And the Stoics, they didn't flinch from that. They trained for it. Seneca would deliberately sleep on the ground and eat only coarse food, even as one of Rome's richest men, just to remind himself, I can handle discomfort. It does not own me. That's more than philosophy. That's freedom training. So, how do we bring that into the modern world? We start by asking a better question. Where am I choosing short-term comfort that's costing me long-term peace? Sit with that, because for most of us, our lives are full of micro-escapes. You delay that decision because it's easier to avoid. You check your phone mid-conversation because stillness makes you restless. You say maybe later to your dreams, not because you don't want them, but because you fear what they'll ask of you. But every one of those decisions piles up, until eventually, you find yourself surrounded by the very thing you were trying to avoid, a life that doesn't feel like yours. So let's flip it. Let's design our discomfort. Let's make it sacred, intentional, powerful. Here's a practice. Daily discomfort design. Each morning, ask yourself, what is one thing I've been avoiding that would make me stronger if I faced it today? Write it down, name it, face it. It doesn't have to be huge, just honest. Maybe it's writing one paragraph of that book you keep postponing. Maybe it's making that phone call. Maybe it's sitting still with a journal and asking a hard question. The size doesn't matter. The pattern does. Because every time you choose discomfort on purpose, you reinforce this truth: I am the one steering this ship. And over time, your identity starts to change. You stop calling yourself lazy, unfocused, or indecisive, not because those things never show up, but because they no longer define you. Why? Because you now have proof, daily proof that you can do hard things, that you can show up, that you can sit in the fire and not collapse. That's Stoicism in motion. But let's not get it twisted. You'll still have resistance. Every day. Your brain is wired to avoid pain. That's not weakness, that's biology. What matters is how you train it. And like any training, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is resilience. Discomfort is your gym. Cold showers, maybe. Speaking up instead of shrinking. Definitely. Doing what matters before what's easy. Always. Each act becomes a signal I can trust myself, and self-trust. That's the gateway drug to real freedom. Let's talk for a moment about the most avoided form of discomfort: emotional exposure. We'd rather feel physical pain than look someone in the eye and say, "That hurt me. I'm not okay. I don't know who I am anymore." But Stoicism doesn't mean repressing emotions. It means relating to them wisely. Marcus Aurelius didn't bottle his feelings. He wrote them out, over and over, quietly, gently. He interrogated his fears, his anger, his heartbreak, and in doing so, he softened his ego and sharpened his spirit. So here's a practice, one that might challenge you tonight. Write a letter to yourself titled, "The Truth I've Been Afraid to Say Out Loud." No one has to see it, but you do. Because courage isn't just about doing bold things, it's about telling the truth in private. That's what designing your life is built on: radical honesty. And yes, it's uncomfortable. But every time you speak your truth on paper, in practice, in relationship, you reclaim a little more of your soul. You stop outsourcing your voice. You stop asking for permission to be fully you. Let's go even deeper. There's a form of discomfort that doesn't feel hard in the moment, but quietly corrodes everything. The discomfort of regret. That's the kind that sneaks in later, when the window has closed, when the silence echoes too loudly, when you realize that you were waiting for permission to live until time ran out. Seneca wrote, "It is not death that we should fear, but never beginning to live." So if discomfort is inevitable, why not choose the kind that builds you? Choose the gym over the guilt. Choose the truth over the tension. Choose the solitude over the fake belonging. Choose the blank page over the ache of not creating. Choose the risk of being seen over the certainty of staying invisible. Because here's the raw truth. You can avoid discomfort, or you can avoid greatness. You can't avoid both. Every hero, every artist, every philosopher, every soul who ever carved something meaningful from life, they made peace with pain. Not because they loved it, but because they refused to be ruled by it. That's your invitation. So tonight, as you lie in bed, ask yourself not with pressure, but with compassion. Where in my life am I ready to stop hiding and start training? Don't wait for the mood. Start with the smallest possible act. Because discomfort doesn't need to be dramatic, it just needs to be deliberate. In part 6, we'll shift from discomfort to something just as vital: vision. Not goals, not wish lists, but clarity of direction. We'll talk about how to craft a life vision rooted in values, not vanity. A path so aligned with who you are that even obstacles begin to feel like allies. Because once you know where you're going, you stop being distracted by everything that isn't it. You ready? Part 6. Let's talk about something often lost in the noise of modern life. Something that's been hijacked by vision boards, glamorized Instagram posts, and bullet point goals with no soul. Let's talk about vision, not the one you present to others, but the one that wakes you up quietly at 3 a.m. The one that sits behind your ribs. The one that whispers, "There's more to you than this." Because here's the truth: without a vision, life designs you. Not the life you want, not the life you were meant for, but a life stitched together from distraction, comparison, and low-level survival. And if that makes your chest tighten a little, good. That means your soul is still alive enough to notice. Now let's strip away the fluff. A vision isn't a fantasy. It isn't a mood board of yachts and six-packs and minimalist kitchens. A true Stoic vision is rooted in values, aimed at virtue, and flexible to reality. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about becoming emperor or gaining praise. His vision was deeper, simpler, and harder to be a good man. Every day, every moment, in the quiet, in the mess, in the middle of failure, your vision should do the same. So let me ask you this, and I want you to write it down. If your life were a message to the world, what would it say? Not what you want people to think about you, what you want your life, your time, your energy, your behavior to embody. Because that's the true vision, a living philosophy. Now let's get practical. Designing a Stoic vision means crafting something that's felt, lived, and returnable, not just when you're winning, but especially when you're tired, confused, or grieving. Here's a framework. It's not rules, it's scaffolding for clarity. 1. Define your inner compass virtues. Which virtues define the person you want to be? Courage, compassion, wisdom, temperance. Circle 3. These are your true north. 2. Identify your emotional signature. How do you want others to feel after interacting with you? Inspired, grounded, understood, challenged. Your legacy isn't what you build. It's how you make people feel. 3. Clarify your sacred work. What do you feel uniquely called to create, express, or contribute? Not what makes you money. What feels like service, even when no one applauds. 4. Craft your vision statement. Short, grounded, personal. I design my life to reflect calm strength, to speak less and listen more, to write truthfully, and to embody clarity even in chaos. This isn't about sounding poetic. It's about having something to return to when the world spins and your mind forgets. Because here's the catch, your brain will forget your vision. Often. That's why you need reminders, anchors, rituals, a return path. Marcus Aurelius wrote meditations to himself. It was never meant for publication. It was his way of saying, "This is who I want to be even when I forget, especially when I forget." You should do the same. Every morning, return to your vision. Every night, reflect on whether you honored it. Not with shame, never with shame, but with honesty. That's what designing your life is built on, 1,000 soft realignments. Now, let's talk about what happens after you define your vision. Because vision isn't just clarity, it's a filter. Once you know what your life is about, you start saying no more often. No to shallow relationships. No to status chasing. No to urgency disguised as importance. No to every opportunity that looks shiny but feels hollow. And that, my friend, will scare people, because most of the world isn't used to someone who knows who they are. But that's exactly what makes vision so powerful. It simplifies your decisions. It calms your nervous system. It strips life of drama, because you're no longer chasing everything, you're just walking your path. Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere," and most people live that way. Sprayed thin, divided, unfocused. Vision pulls you back, focuses your fire, makes your yes holy. So, if you've been drifting, start here. Who do I want to be? When no one's watching, when it's hard, and when it's not exciting. Because that version of you, that's the one your future depends on. Now, I want to share something real. Something that might sting, but also liberate. You don't get the life you kinda want. You get the life you consistently design. That means rituals. That means boundaries. That means honoring your time like it's borrowed from the gods. Let's build that structure. Daily design ritual, 15 minutes. Total morning, 5 minutes. Vision activation. Read your personal vision statement aloud. Ask what action today would honor this vision. Midday, 2 minutes. Realignment, pause. Stop, breathe. Ask, am I living inside my design or drifting? Evening, 8 minutes. Reflection and forgiveness. Journal of what aligned today. Where did I drift and why? What will I do differently tomorrow? End with a breath. I forgive the drift. I return to design. This small ritual becomes a compass. Over time, it shifts your identity from someone trying to change to someone building something sacred. And no, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be devoted. Now, let me tell you something stoic and modern and ancient and real. Your life is the message, not your words, not your content, not your goals or aesthetics. but how you show up when it's raining, when no one claps, when nothing feels clear. That's where your vision lives. In Part 7, we'll explore emotional discipline not as repression, but as mastery. We'll break down how Stoics trained their minds to remain unshaken not because they were cold, but because they cared so deeply they refused to be owned by chaos. Because once you learn to feel everything without being consumed, you become unstoppable. Part 7. Let's step into the part most people misunderstand. The part that makes Stoicism seem cold or robotic to those who only skim the surface. Let's talk about emotional discipline. But first, let's clear something up. Stoicism is not about being numb. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. And it's definitely not about suppressing your feelings. Stoicism is about mastery through understanding. It's about feeling deeply, but choosing not to be ruled. Marcus Aurelius felt the weight of an empire on his back. He was betrayed, grieved the death of his children, fought plagues and war. Yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, not detachment, discipline, not denial, direction." So let's ask the question, what does it mean to have emotional discipline in a world that rewards overreaction, impulsivity, and outrage? It means becoming the still point in a spinning world. It means watching a storm rise inside you and not running from it, not numbing it, not projecting it, but standing there, breathing, watching it pass. Because here's the deeper truth. Your emotions are messengers, not masters. They show up to tell you something, but they don't get to decide who you are, what you say, or what you destroy. You decide that. Let me say that again. You are not your emotion. You are the awareness that sees it. And that awareness, that's where your real power lives. So let's break this into practice, because knowing it isn't enough. You have to train for this. Stoic Emotional Protocol. 3. Steps 1. Pause. Name it. When an emotion hits pause, give it a name. This is anger. This is anxiety. This is shame. Naming activates the thinking mind, not the reacting mind. 2. Ask, what's this trying to protect? Most emotions, especially the intense ones, are protectors. Anger protects your boundaries. Anxiety protects your sense of control. Shame protects your desire for acceptance. Understand it. Don't hate it. 3. Choose a response that reflects your higher self, not your past self, not your emotional default, your designed self. Ask, what would my future self thank me for doing next? That's not repression. That's responsibility. The ability to respond clearly, calmly, consciously, and it's one of the highest forms of strength in the Stoic life. Now let's go deeper. There's something you'll begin to notice on this path. Emotional mastery isn't loud. It's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It just shows up in the middle of chaos and refuses to be moved by everything that doesn't matter. It's the moment you choose silence instead of arguing. It's the moment you hold your tongue not from fear, but from clarity. It's the moment you feel the wave rise and you let it crest, without riding it. That's what Marcus meant when he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That word revoke is vital. You can revoke your consent to suffering. You can revoke your agreement with a story that no longer serves you. You can revoke the invitation to every emotional guest that doesn't align with your higher vision. But first, you must practice. Here's a journaling practice for emotional discipline. The 3 R's reflection. Nightly practice. 1. Recognize what emotion stood out most today. 2. Reveal what thought or story fueled it. 3. Reframe. If I were to respond from clarity, not reactivity, what would I choose instead? Do this consistently, and you'll stop fearing your emotions. You'll start seeing them as tools, warnings, reminders, and you'll build an identity that is unshakable. Not because you feel less, but because you feel honestly and act wisely. Let's talk about one of the most difficult emotional disciplines: letting go. Letting go of the apology you never got. The version of you that couldn't save that relationship. The approval you keep chasing from someone emotionally absent. The dream that no longer fits the soul you've become, Seneca said. To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. That's letting go not as weakness, but as wisdom. Because the longer you carry what no longer serves you, the heavier your life becomes. Designing your life means asking this question regularly. What weight am I still calling mine that no longer belongs to me? Let go. Let go with grace. Let go with tears, if needed, but let go. Because your hands need to be empty to receive the next chapter. Let's wrap this section with something practical and powerful. The Emotional Emergency Kit, a Stoic self-soothing ritual. When emotions spike, try this. Breathe, 4 to 7, 8 breathing, inhale, 4 hold, 7 exhale, 8. Touch a grounding object, something that reminds you who you are. Repeat this mantra aloud. I am not this emotion. I am the awareness behind it. I choose what comes next, and you can choose, even if you weren't taught how, even if your past has trained you otherwise, even if everyone around you is still owned by their reactions. You can choose, because that's the heart of Stoicism. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are what you do with them. And when you show up again and again with discipline, with compassion, with calm clarity, you start to trust yourself on a level that no achievement, no relationship, and no praise can replace. That's emotional freedom. In Part 8, we move into perhaps the most tangible layer of design: boundaries. Not just saying no to others, but saying yes to yourself, to your space, to your time, to your vision. Because your life cannot be fully designed if it is constantly being redesigned by everyone else's demands. Let's build your fortress not out of walls, but out of self-respect. Part 8. Let's talk about a word that gets tossed around, often usually misunderstood, often resisted, and almost always avoided by people living on autopilot: boundaries. Now, in the world of Stoicism, boundaries aren't just about protecting your time or saying no to energy vampires. That's surface level. Necessary. Yes, but not the full picture. Boundaries in modern Stoicism are about honoring your design. They're about preserving the architecture of your soul from being constantly redrawn by external pressures. Because if you don't define your space mentally, emotionally, physically, someone else will. Let's get brutally honest. You can't build a designed life if every moment is open season for intrusion. You can't create inner peace if you keep saying yes to things that make you resentful. You can't live with clarity if your energy is scattered across conversations, commitments, and connections that dilute your presence. So let's ask the question, Where are your boundaries leaking? Is it with your time, your phone, your friendships, your job, your family? And more importantly, why are you afraid to reinforce them? Seneca said, "No person hands out their money to passers-by, but how many do each of us hand out our lives? We're tight-fisted with property and money, yet think too little of wasting time, the one thing about which we should all be the toughest misers." That's a boundary wake-up call. And it leads us to this truth. A boundary is not a rejection of others. It's a commitment to self. You're not pushing people away. You're pulling your integrity closer. Because every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you absorb energy that isn't yours, every time you answer calls that don't honor your vision, you abandon the very life you claim to be designing. Let's bring this into practice. The Stoic Boundary Framework. 1. Know your core energy windows. When are you most focused, calm, creative morning? Late at night, right after movement. These hours are sacred. Block them, guard them like a temple. No meetings, no screens, no small talk. That time belongs to the higher version of you. 2. Define your inner circle rules. Who gets your emotional availability? Who gets instant access? Who has to schedule it? Not from arrogance, but from design. Not every connection is equal. And just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they deserve it. 3. Make a default no rule. If something doesn't align with your values, vision, or current focus, it's a default no. Not forever, just not now. That includes invitations that feel like obligation, quick favors that disrupt your deep work, conversations that drain instead of energize. You owe people honesty, not access. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They don't fear boundaries, they fear guilt. The moment you start drawing lines, the voices rise. You've changed. You're being selfish. Don't forget who helped you. But the Stoic doesn't fear disapproval. They fear misalignment. Epictetus said, "Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do." And sometimes, what you need to do is disappoint others to remain loyal to yourself. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Let me give you something tangible right now. The Stoic boundary script. When someone asks something that crosses your internal line, respond with, "Right now. I'm focused on something important and need to protect my energy. I hope you'll understand." Simple, firm, compassionate. You don't owe anyone a novel. You don't need to justify your self-respect. Now, let's move to another layer, self-boundaries. Because here's the real plot twist. The hardest person to set boundaries with is yourself. It's not just about saying no to others, it's about saying no to your own distractions, your own rationalizations, your own lower impulses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That includes when your own mind tries to convince you. One more scroll won't hurt. You'll start tomorrow, just this once." Your boundaries must also protect you from you. Here's how to start. Design a boundary ritual daily practice. Morning prompt. What do I need to protect today to honor my vision? Midday check-in. Where have I allowed leaks? Where can I tighten my focus? Evening reflection. What did I honor? What did I sacrifice? Why this turns boundaries from walls into windows of intention. You don't become cold. You become clear. Let's talk about forgiveness, the back end of boundaries. Because sometimes the boundary you need isn't with someone else, it's with a past version of yourself. The one who tolerated too much, stayed too long, betrayed their truth to be liked. Forgive them. Don't shame them. Don't erase them. Just thank them for surviving and let them go. Every time you reinforce a boundary, you send this message to your nervous system. We're safe now. We don't need to abandon ourselves anymore. And slowly, your body begins to believe it. Your energy recalibrates. Your clarity returns. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. So let me leave you with this. Where in your life are you currently over-available and under-aligned? Write it down, name it, then design the shift. In Part 9, we'll step into one of the most powerful and often overlooked pillars of a designed life: stillness. Not just quiet, not just meditation, but deep, attentive presence. The kind that makes ordinary moments feel sacred. Because sometimes the loudest breakthroughs happen in silence. And once you know how to hold stillness, the noise of the world loses its power over you. Part 9. Now we come to the quiet part. The soft undercurrent beneath everything we've talked about. Stillness. Not just the absence of movement, but the presence of something deeper. Not just silence, but a space of listening to life, to truth, to yourself. Stillness is the part of life most people never visit. Not because they don't want peace, but because they've forgotten how to be with themselves without performance. And yet, if you ask any Stoic worth their salt, Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus, what the foundation of wisdom is, they'd all point to the same thing: stillness of the mind. Because until your mind becomes still, your life remains noisy even in success. You chase clarity through action, answers, validation. You move fast, talk fast, decide fast, hoping the storm inside settles once you get there. But the Stoics knew something we often forget. You're already there. This moment, right now, it's it. There is no next that will make you more whole than this breath, if you meet it fully. So let me ask you, when was the last time you sat with nothing? No agenda, no productivity, no entertainment, just breath, body. Now, if the answer is I can't remember, you're not alone. Stillness terrifies people living on autopilot. Because in stillness, everything you've been avoiding shows up. The truth, the ache, the emptiness, the desire, the doubt, but also the answer. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again. People look for retreats in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. But the best refuge is in this, the mind that is within you. In other words, you don't need to escape to find peace. You need to return to yourself. Stillness isn't a luxury. It's a requirement for a designed life. Let's get practical. Here's the practice I call the stillness compass. 5 to 10 minutes daily. 1. Find a quiet space. No phone, no background noise, no goal. 2. Sit comfortably, eyes closed, not to meditate with discipline, just to be. 3. Ask one simple question. What am I feeling right now? Without judgment. Don't solve it. Don't fix it. Just name it. Let it exist. 4. Breathe into the feeling. Inhale presence. Exhale resistance. Let it soften, like a knot slowly unwinding. 5. End with this thought: even here, even now, I am whole. Do this, not to get something. Do it because this is the something. The more you build stillness into your life, the less life can manipulate you. Why? Because most manipulation by marketing, media, even your own ego relies on inner chaos, on urgency, on fear, on the belief that something out there will finally fix what's in here. Stillness cuts through that lie. Stillness says, I am already enough. I don't need to chase, prove, or perform. I just need to listen. Seneca said, "It is not that we are given a short life, but that we make it short by wasting time. And how do we waste it? By never pausing long enough to realize we already have what we seek." Let's push this further. In your designed life, stillness becomes your reset point. When you're overwhelmed, pause. When you're angry, pause. When you're inspired, pause. Pause not to stall, but to see. Stillness gives you the panoramic view. It shows you patterns. It reveals motivations. It whispers. This next move, does it reflect your truth or just your trigger? And over time, it becomes second nature. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop proving. You start embodying. You stop reaching for validation. You start listening for alignment. Here's a deeper stillness practice I call the 3-minute truth sit. At any point in your day, pause everything. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Ask yourself, gently, what truth am I avoiding right now? No pressure to fix. Just see it. Because that truth, that's where your next design step lives. You don't need to chase your dream at 100 mph. You need to sit quietly long enough for the next right step to rise. That's the paradox of stillness. It feels passive, but it activates the deepest parts of you. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll itch to check your phone, to get back to it, to be productive. But productivity without stillness is busy work. Action without clarity is misalignment. Success without presence is empty. Stillness makes the invisible visible again. Now let's tie this to your emotional life. Stillness is the stage where emotions finally speak honestly. Anxiety might reveal its root. Excitement might reveal where it's being wasted. Because emotions, like children, don't shout to annoy you. They shout because they're being ignored. Sit, listen, let them land. Stillness doesn't mean you stop life. It means you meet it on your terms, with open hands. And that's what designing your life is really about. Meeting each moment with presence, not programming. Let me leave you with one small ritual. The 60-second return. Once every hour, take 60 seconds. Close your eyes. Say silently, I return to myself. I am here. This is enough. Do this, and watch how your day changes shape. Not because the world slowed down, but because you did. In part 10, the final part, we'll gather everything we've built. We'll create your personal blueprint. We'll reflect, integrate, and breathe into the truth that's been there all along. You don't need to fix your life. You just need to wake up to it, and from that awakened place, design what comes next. Part 10. Here we are, the final step. Not the end of a video, but the beginning of something far more intimate, far more real, your life, fully awake. We've walked together through identity, values, vision, emotional mastery, discomfort, boundaries, and stillness. Not to overload your mind, but to awaken your choice. Because that's the essence of a designed life choice made daily, gently and deliberately. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What thoughts have you been carrying? What color has your life been soaked in? Was it yours or inherited? Was it born from presence or painted in autopilot? This is your invitation to begin not perfectly, but intentionally. So let's create your blueprint, not a plan for success, a system for alignment, a rhythm for the soul, a reminder that in the middle of chaos and noise and everything you cannot control, you can still live by design. Here's your Stoic life design blueprint, the final integration. 1. Define your North Star. I design my life to embody. Insert your 3 core virtues here. Write this. Refine it. Read it every morning. 2. Reinforce your pillars. Make a table below. Pillar awareness, daily practice, morning journaling. Who do I want to be today? Pillar vision, daily practice, weekly. Reread of your life statement. Pillar discomfort, daily practice, daily challenge. What am I avoiding that would grow me? Pillar stillness, daily practice. 5 minutes of non-reactive breath per day. Pillar boundaries, daily practice. Say no to 1 draining thing per week. Pillar emotional mastery, daily practice, end of day journal. What emotion tried to own me today? You don't need to do them all, every day. You just need to keep coming back. This isn't a sprint, it's a spiral. You'll return to the same lessons again and again, each time deeper, each time clearer. 3. Create your return ritual. Every time you feel lost, scattered, off course, pause and ask, am I reacting or am I designing? This question alone will reroute your entire day, even your entire path. You see, the true battle isn't between success and failure. It's between reaction and reflection, autopilot and design. Most people live their entire lives responding to triggers and trends and timelines that don't even belong to them. But you are choosing. You are building. You are stepping into the quiet rebellion of being fully present, fully sovereign, fully you. That's Stoicism at its core. Not cold detachment, not hard discipline, but warm clarity. A strength so grounded, so peaceful, that nothing outside of you can disrupt what's been rooted within. Let me leave you with this. One day not long from now, you'll look back on this phase of your life. The chaos, the reawakening, the questions, the small shifts, and you'll whisper something to your former self. Thank you for pausing. Thank you for waking up. Because this was the turning point. Not a flashy transformation, but the moment you decided to stop drifting, to stop scrolling through your own life like a stranger, to stop outsourcing your meaning, and to begin quietly, faithfully, imperfectly designing the life that was always waiting for you. You don't need to do it all today. You just need to do one thing differently tomorrow, and then again the day after that, and again, and again. Because that's how change happens, not in fireworks, but in whispers. So tonight, let this be your final reflection. What's one thing I can do tomorrow that aligns with who I truly want to become? Write it down. Circle it. Make it sacred. Then sleep knowing this: you are no longer on autopilot. You are no longer pretending. You are no longer waiting. You're living. You're aware. You're awake. And from this point on, you design your life with intention, with strength, with grace, like a Stoic. Now, if this video stirred something in you, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely resonate with what we do here. And if you feel called to share, drop one sentence in the comments. Here's what I'm redesigning in my life. Let's build this community one honest voice at a time. Now, dim the lights. Take one last deep breath, and let these words settle in the silence that follows. Because sometimes, that's where life begins again. Sweet dreams.